Well, it's close enough. Let's get started. So, go ahead and have a roll call, please.
All right, Jason Ruggles,
Present.
Andrew Brinkley. Here. Kevin Repchek.
Here.
Elaine Vincent. Terry Johnson.
Here.
Marty Basic.
Here.
Ryan Crater.
Here.
Thomas Province.
Here. All right, so we've got the meeting minutes from the 12th of March. Any questions with those, or do we have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion to adopt.
All right, motion is seconded, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None? Let's see, any citizen comments? Any citizen comments? Amy, are you there? Not here?
Somebody beat you when you get it.
She will, there's probably some way. Can't help it, but it's just the running joke, you know? Nothing new to report here other than to welcome our new member, Ryan. So, Ryan, if you don't mind introducing yourself to the group.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Ryan Crater. I've been a Mount Lebanon resident for about a year now, and the Pittsburgh area for the last 6. My wife is what brought me here. She was born and raised in Lebo. But yeah, I'm a certified public accountant and an audit manager at a regional accounting firm up in Cranberry. I've been at that firm for about 6 years and really excited for this opportunity. This is a nice way to get connected and meet people in the community. So,
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome. And you escaped during tax season?
I did. So I'm on the audit side,
Oh,
so
good.
things have already settled down.
Yeah, everybody hates him in May.
Yeah. Right, yes, yeah.
And your presence further cements me as the least qualified person here. Welcome. So we'll skip commissioner's report for right now. And then move to the staff liaison.
So that would be me. So Commissioner Silverman asked me to present this evening my year-end financial report that I did last night for the commission. So I'll go ahead and get that presented for you here. Give me just a second. Paper copies coming around for you. So as we were mentioning before the meeting, as we were kicking around, financial statements can mean many different things in many different forms and how it's presented. The commission over the years, in my 13 years here, has really liked to see a more summarized version for them of what they pay attention to as their board meetings move forward, and their commission session for the year moves forward. So this report, if you look back at prior videos, it's going to look very similar, but it's tailored to what's going on. Whereas, we present a annual comprehensive financial report, which is approximately 130-page report that's nationally, under national standards and so on and so forth. Then we also have an annual report that will appear in the May magazine. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
That will appear in the magazine. That's more of a Reader's Digest version, kind of gives you high level and meets some criteria also for the National Award program that we also participate in. So let me see here, make sure this is shared for the public audience again, so they can see it. So here, so this presentation is real brief. It gives a very high level, but really likes to focus the commission what they like to see, and especially in the second slide, third slide, which really is for Commissioner Silverman. This is the Commissioner Silverman slide. So
I have to point to my favorite part of this.
Yeah.
yes. So this is what our makeup of at the end of the year, what our fund balance position is. So our fund balance, while it declined overall for the year, that's because assignments that we had were spent. So assignments are things from the prior year that are carried over that say, hey, we budgeted for that. We're still going to spend it. It's not going to be, it's in the current budget now, but it's from monies from a prior period. So when that's spent, looks like we have a quote unquote deficit for the year. But overall, when there's other budgetary factors that happen, like increases in revenue or reductions in certain budget items, there can actually be overall an increase to what is called the unassigned fund balance. So unassigned fund balance in government geek speak is that money that has no assignment, right? That has no restrictions to it, that the commission and under your policies and under your form of government, you have the ability to appropriate. So a number of years back in 2015, the commission, based on some guidelines from GFOA, that national standard that I was referring to earlier, it used to be that 10% was kind of the benchmark. You wanted unassigned fund balance to be 10% of your expenditures. Bond rating companies, when I first got hired in 2013, decided to downgrade us because our one of the factors was our fund balance wasn't high enough. So it is something that it's.
When it comes to parking authority over, which.
Yeah, so there were some things that happened there that it makes you pay attention to the unassigned fund balance. People pay attention, especially the bankers, the debt markets and those types of things. So it is something we focus on here. We focus on every year. Our used to be no lower than 10%, but with a goal of 12, and then we moved it in 2015 from 12 to 15, and 15 being the upper echelon. And no lower than 12. So with the 15%, we're now above 15% and have been for a couple of years. And that's what this is really explaining here, is that we're about 17.2% of general fund expenditures, which equates to every 1%, it's about $436,000. Why this is important for the commission and what they focus on is that sometimes when they have prior discussions, they have things that weren't funded in the budget or could be coming up this year that are projects that weren't ready for the budget. And they weren't ready for budget time in let's say, because we really do the budget in August, September timeframe. And there may be some other things that are percolating in that October timeframe, but they need to be level set, ready to go by November 1st, right? We need to have those firm numbers to set that. If that's not then the case, it gives them another 4 to 6 months to percolate those types of ideas. And this is an opportunity for them, if they would like, as a commission, to appropriate this unassigned fund balance. So this always gives them a benchmark of where they need to be and what they're doing here. So any questions on that?
Is there a point at which you go too far in the other direction, that you get into 20, 25, something like that, and you're not appropriately spending your funds?
So it depends on your community, right? So there are some communities that need that because they're in development phases. There's other infrastructures that are coming that maybe they don't want to provide and want to have that liquidity. But us as a 99% built out community, our fund balance does not need to be that high. So yes, there is a precipice for us. So the national rating agencies for the Moody's of the world, when they look at us, their national benchmark is 25 and sometimes 30% based on size. And we tell them every time when we sit at a rating call, it says that doesn't make sense for our community. We're a firm believer, the commission and down through the manager from my time here, we're not managing to a 30% number. That's not what our community needs. And so we maintain with our 12 to 15 goalposts and try and stay over that.
We don't want to tax people to build a
Holistic, yeah,
It just does,
yeah.
right.
And that's consistent with how you described it.
Yeah, but you're not wrong that you have to know your community to, you can't just fit in that box for rating agencies and such.
That seems like a large cushion. I mean, just thinking non-municipality wise, I mean, just to have that much cash just sitting around. I don't know. Probably earning minimal interest, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, because in Pennsylvania, it's limited as to what you can invest in it. So, yeah, it's a national benchmark. That's what they like to see. But I think we've done a really good job. And, when we get towards the end of this, when we do our rating call for a 25 bond issue, if we successfully move forward with that, that's one of the things we're going to tell Moody's. Look at what we've done. We've been able to maintain and still produce capital, build things, have, competitive market for real estate and so on and so forth. So.
And what we've done, kind of, like, for instance, budget time, where we said, all right, we look at this and say, okay, we can take, once we've done all the estimates, because the budget put together August, by the time you get to December, the realities are clearer. And so, okay, let's take some of that money and spend it, but even when we get to the point of commissioner philosophy has not been, we can go to 50%, let's go to 15.01. That's not been our style. We don't wanna put too much money in there, but just stuff happens.
Right.
You know, as it happened in 2018, I'm gonna be president that year. And we had a lot of projects relating to storm sewer projects, and we just said, we just need to spend some money to address these. And my joke was, well, we're hitting the rainy day fund for rainy day projects. You know, and so same sort of thing here where, you know, when we went to the budget this year and said not down to the 15, as we move forward and look at what's out there, stuff happens. And we don't want to take it down to the minimal because then you're going, oh, what do we do?
Right.
So that's at least been commissioning philosophy.
And there's game plans all along that are happening, and that's the derivative of our manager and our staff that we're always communicating. They're sitting in my office calling me up. We're game planning things that are happening. So I'll give you a good example. So we had unassigned, you know, we had an $80,000 potential hit that was coming unbudgeted for the software we use for the computer systems in our police cars was being forced to go to Windows 11, but the Windows 11 was not compatible with the devices that we had. We were able to work around it. We were able to successfully do that, but the IT director immediately called me and said, hey, just want to give you a heads up. This may be coming. It goes on my watch list and we follow up. All right, so it's always things are happening, and we're always making sure that we know we have this. We don't want to use it if it's not the commission directive, but it is something it goes both ways. It goes from the top, from the commission down, saying, hey, these are our priorities. So a good example of that a year or two ago was traffic calming on Holly Crest and Salem. So we use that, you know, to say, hey, we're going to get that done. We're going to use this money. Whereas the other way, it can go, hey, we're delivering, hey, we're going to outright purchase a vehicle where we've leased a vehicle in the past, $40,000 difference, we want to tell you. So it goes both ways, meets in a budget amendment, and here you go. So.
And think about like the ice rink chiller, we're also like, oh boy, you know, or issues with the swimming pool. You know, okay, we're not gonna get the revenue we thought, or the ice rink chiller goes down, you know, all those sorts of unplanned events.
And so they rely on us, between my office and the manager to see when that's going to settle. And then this is where we settled it at year end 2024. So our major revenue sources, being real estate tax, and earned income tax. Earned income tax is our main revenue source. But briefly on real estate taxes, overall year over year, it did decline. That's due to two things. One being our millage did decrease by 0.41 mils for 2024 from 2023. With the advent of the refuse fee that was charged, we did reduce the millage. So that was first. And then second was the continued tax appeals from commercial properties especially. So we did have some refunds and some major refunds that have hit. Overall, since 2023, we've had about $24 million in assessed decline. And that's net with some increases. So some new properties coming online. So it is affecting us. It's affecting the school district 5 times as much, if not more, as you've seen. There are 29 mills to our 4.5 mills, right? So that it's 5x plus that's affecting them. So it is something that we're watching and making sure that how it's affecting us, but it is affecting us overall as a community as well.
It's still going on with Castlegate, was one, and, you know,
Yeah.
It's 2025, so obviously we'll see if things wind up. At least one other big one, and how that's all gonna play out.
Yeah, I mean, and all of our major commercial properties have been touched. You know, all of our major ones, from the hotel to the Galleria to Bower Hill to the hospital to everything's been touched. It's all been, and hey, I don't blame them, right? Can't blame them if that's the game you're being given. But it is affecting us, and especially school districts as well. But we're not here to talk about school districts, we're here to talk about the municipality. So earned income taxes continue to exceed expectations, 3.8% last year, year over year. So it continues to be our main breadwinner. And we watch that quarterly. So as quarterly returns come in, we watch if there's major taxpayers leaving, any major fluctuations in the bands. So we band it by income strata based on an estimate for your year-end earnings. That can sometimes be skewed if you get large bonuses and those types of things in a certain quarter, but it does tend to smooth out over the year, and you start to see those companies that do pay out large bonuses tend to be in the same time periods every year. So if you do have that earner, you would know that they left, and those types of things. We don't see names. I have no idea who these people are. They're just literally just a number. But we do monitor that on a quarterly basis. Our biggest, really kind of one that we knew was coming and just didn't know how much it was going to be was real estate transfer taxes. With the continued market is where it was with the mortgage interest rates and the compression and limited housing stock that was starting to be seen within the market as well. We did see a 70+ property less transfer on the residential side, which equated to about $28 million less in value being transferred, which is give or take about 280,000 for us. Because it's a 1% transfer tax. So it was. Now, the positive silver lining is our housing value, although smaller, right, and the transfers, the value was still there. And that's something you can always point to at the average housing price of $440,000 for an average home sale. So you can see, if anybody's ever interested, we have very few commercial transfers. So you can see we only had 13 commercial transfers for a value of $12 million within the year. So we're primarily residential transfers. There are times, for your own edification, there are times in which this number can get skewed, and this is why we track it, is that you can incorrectly, if you're not watching it, base something on the next year because one commercial property transferred. This happened with, was it the hotel when Marriott bought it out? There was one that happened to us. I forget who it was. I want to say it was the hotel. Yeah, is that if you weren't watching it and you based it off of that and you didn't know what the numbers were, you'd be like, why are you budgeting lower the next year than what you're actually already got? We were already exceeded budget and we budgeted lower than what was already at that moment. And then it's because we knew that the commercial properties had transferred. Sales taxes, this is the 25% that's distributed to municipalities of the 1% additional Allegheny County sales tax. So this is part of that 25% that's distributed to municipalities. This started to slow. As prices remained higher, as more people were not buying as much, we started to see this also contract as well. So there's a decrease of about 100,000, which was right in what we were expecting. So other noted revenue that you can't see on the screen, if you're in the building here, is recreation. So we had the emergency repair. So we had some variances there where we were receiving some insurance money for so the revenue was elevated in certain line items for that. Just wanted to make note that the majority of that emergency generator that was sitting there at the ice rink was actually being paid for by insurance. So that was a note to make. Also, new revenue source due to the taking in of the indoor tennis operations. So we had some variances there. We were guessing at what period of time things were going to be happening within the year. So there were some variances there based on what we guessed the budget was. We'd never run the indoor tennis operations. So those will smooth out over the next couple of years. Interest earnings continue to be strong in the investments we are available to have. So that was a nice variance for us. And cable franchise fees, this is the Craig Grella slide. There are things that particular commissioners like to see and know about. This continues to decline. So this was a $20,000 decrease over 2023. This has continued to slide where we were up over and close to 800,000 6 to 7 years ago.
Is that because of everyone cutting the cord?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where we're at there. Any other questions on revenue? Aren't you moving? All right, so expenditure variances. Typically we separate things into personnel, contractual, commodities, and capital. So we go through those 4 kind of exercises as we go. The main cost that we have, 60% of our budget is personnel, so it's an important one to focus on. We had $697,000 positive variance due to a couple factors. One, some budgeted positions that were either new or we knew were coming into the year, weren't filled for a period of time during the year, so you automatically have a budget variance, when, you know, a position that's slotted for an entire year wasn't hired until mid-year or wasn't hired at all. So there was a couple positions.
Like the social services coordinator of the police department was hired later than expected, so.
Retirements that happened, fire chief retired, right? So we were down, we had a couple others that, you know, so on and so forth. So those are the types of things that can cause those types of personnel variances that we have there. Overtime wages continue to exceed budget, but we budget at a level, and so let me explain this a little bit. Why I say it continues is that we budgeted at a level that is the expected norm. We don't budget above. So if you net this out with new hires, right, and vacancies that were primarily in the police and fire departments, if you net them out, we're at a positive variance overall. We don't budget say, okay, we think we're gonna be this overtime number. That's not the way we historically budget. We budget to say, okay, based on what our normal overtime hours are, well, if we had a year like 2018 where we had 6 to 7 officers, well, we're not backfilling that quickly. All right, that overtime is gonna balloon quickly because we've got to cover shifts. So those types of things. So it is something we watch. We make sure we're at, but prior year with retirements, and they struggle to hire police officers these days, which is a whole other story. Really, this is a good number compared to last year. And then finally, we had some part-time wages. Again, this was the stab in the dark with the tennis as to when we were going to take them over and so on and so forth. So we had that. We also had a reduction in the pool due to some staffing changes and some things that we did. So that was a good positive variance as well. So overall, so close to $700,000 variance there. In contractual services, these actually pretty much hit the mark for the year, except for those things that we didn't spend. You know, projects that we knew that we had budgeted for, but just didn't get off the ground. So active transportation is a good one. The building rotunda in here is about 50-60 grand that we're doing the part of our historic building. The rotunda, when you walk in, if you look up, that needs replastered, repaired, those types of things. We just didn't we had to do some other things first. That's going to be repaired this year, so that's a carryover as well. We started a Facade grant program, and we were finished, which is run through the Commercial Districts Manager's Office, as well as some software purchases, mainly being the new code or inspection software that hasn't been finished yet. So, but contractual service was very good this year. We were right on par. Commodities. We budget for the equipment that we order in the year. We don't always receive that equipment within the year, especially post-COVID. This is starting to become where we were at a 2-year mark, but we're starting to see that come down. So our big $240,000 dump trucks, big dump trucks were a 2-year wait to get them. We're now at 11 to 15 month. Well, that causes this, where we have variances here. We had a heavy snow year at the end of the 2024 year, so we used a little bit more in commodities there, but netted out, we also had some fuel savings. So commodities, really, it's the equipment delays that we're having, but commodities, there's really the main things are your salt purchases. That's big, a big one for us. Fuel and equipment. Those are our big commodities within that category. Capital purchases, again, when it rises to a capital purchase, like the large dump truck I was mentioning, the equipment delays, let me rephrase, is not necessarily the large dump truck. I confused myself there. It's actually for that's considered a smaller dump truck, which is the smaller dumps that you see plowing the streets. The larger dump trucks, which is the big $230,000, $240,000 vehicles, are down here in the capital side. So we have municipal rotunda, like I mentioned. We have the firing range improvements, so on and so forth. Those were all completed in 2025, or are going to be completed in 2025. So finally, this is something I mentioned when we started with the fund balance conversation, is you have variances that, overall looks like we, ran a deficit of 568,000 for the year, but overall budget variance was positive to 1.7 million because we thought we were going to spend more on a deficit position. So this is a good thing. So we were expecting to spend of assigned fund balance. So we don't budget unassigned fund balance. we assign the fund balance, right? So we were expecting to spend 2.3 million, but due to positive variances and those types of things and other release of monies, we were able to have a $1.7 million positive variance there. So that's how we get to that point. It kind of wraps that up. Any questions on that so far? All right, things we're watching, and this is in order of what we like to really focus on. Real estate tax appeals, everyone that comes in, we're analyzing, sending over to the school district, really working hand in hand with them, especially on the commercial side. That really affects them the most. But that is handled through our treasury manager, through our office, to make sure that everyone's apprised immediately when that happens. So Commissioner Silverman had mentioned the Castlegate property. The change order isn't even through yet, but we were aware of it and we're already working on that to get that process started if appeal needs to be happening. Just continue to watch the real estate transfer tax trends and earned income tax trends like I talked about. Any capital needs that may arise. So we've had in the last couple years where traffic calming's been a big one. We have the mobility board and some of the other boards that are focusing on some projects that sometimes rise to those levels. So we're making sure that we're watching those and making sure we're in tune with the other boards. And then finally is the 2025 bond issue. So the 25 bond issue, to kind of give you a preview of what those projects are.
Andrew, real quick, before we get back to timing and which, capital needs came up last night. We talked about traffic calming on Scrubgrass. Well, it turns out Scrubgrass did very poorly with the winter. So the recommendation was just right. So the recommendation said, wait, don't do the traffic calming and then rip it up. Just wait until 2026, do Scrubgrass, then put the traffic calming on top of that. Well, back to carryover funding, it means the money we set aside for traffic calming won't be spent until at least 2026. So just one of those capital needs. We've said we're going to do it, but the spend won't be till later.
So we're really in the sizing aspect of the bond issue at this point. So the commission's been presented with the capital that we expected to go through the 25 bond issue. Those are the projects that are listed here in non-red or in black ink, right? These were part of the bond or the 2025 budget. So some of these are real numbers. We have bids and estimated engineering to complete the project. So the swimming pool filtration has been an accepted bid by the commission, and we're moving forward with that project after the summer pool season. So we have some real firm concrete numbers, whereas some of them are in pre-bid stage or are out to bid, so on and so forth. So we're moving forward with a lot of these projects as is, and we'll get some more firm numbers, in the next month or so. Really, the sizing for the bond issue, besides these projects, are other potential projects that could be starting to be seeded, right? One could be the Brafferton Field project. This has been elevated to the commission by their manager with some issues that have been happening at the Brafferton Field complex. It's not really even a complex. And yeah, is to improve drainage, improve parking, make a small playground, and make it more of a usable space for fields, because I know we have a lot of field concerns. And that this also rose to the level, not only do we know about Brafferton, because we have put some money into it in the last 5 years in doing some things, but in addition is the field of complaints from the residents as well in that area is really about parking. Is that when it is being used, it is really, affecting them over there. So can it all be solved? Probably not, but at least, it's being presented and risen to the level. That's up to the commission whether they want to put something like that in there. Now, the second one is the south, and I'll go into the second part of that. South Garage project, this is for moving the South Garage project moving forward, right? We need to do something and start doing something with the project. So this is the seed money to start potentially looking at demolition. What does that look like? And even demolishing it, what would you do with temporary parking, right? Because there's gonna be a displaced number of parkers between 125 and 150 at any given time in the business district during the peak hours of 7A to 7P, let's say. So that type of money needs to be kind of moved forward. It can also be used for other parts of that South Garage project as we move forward. The piece of this that the commission really on the sizing piece of it in the next 2 meetings is that first meeting in May is really when we need to say, okay, now we're going to market, right? This is the size we're going to market with. And so whether the final project happens to be Brafferton Field or something else, it can happen, right? Or something else gets larger, so on and so forth, when bids come back or, things happen. A good example is the 2013 bond issue, which had about $1 million. Was it $1 million? I think it was $1 million in improvements at the golf course that were not done because the pool project got bigger. And there were more things that needed to be done at the pool. So it's really giving that capital availability to the commission. But these are the projects that are outlined and hopefully, we'll be proceeding with.
So the ones in the red are like maybes? Yes, gotcha.
Yeah. So the other ones are already either at the very least are in the pre-bid stage. Right, they're already walking with contractors and they were all part of the 25 budget.
But the intent is to get the money regardless.
Potentially, that's a commission decision, right?
No, I'm just saying because it's half the bond issue or 2 maybes.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct. Well, and the first project, the repairs worked so far. So that was 1.5 million of what was in the
Maybe shift that like Brad.
shifting that to Brafferton, those types of things, also adding, hey, if we want to move the South Garage project forward, how do we do that side of it? We're most likely going to be in the market in 26 and 27. What that size looks like, we don't know, but there are other things the commission has priorities on. Things that are at the mobility board level. Things that are at the Parks and Rec board level, right, with fields and recreation center expansions and those types of things. So most likely we're in the market, so it's not an end all be all. If we don't go now, you're never seeing this money. That's part of the plan. It's do we do it now and have that seed money ready for these types of projects, or do we hold and, wait for the 26 market? Or 27 market, whatever the commission decides to do. So just giving them options.
Yeah, the garage, we expect to be expensive. We just don't know, but that's part of that. We're going to borrow money. How much do we need? Don't know yet. But we gotta start somewhere. Because it's gonna be end of life. So this is not an optional thing.
Yeah.
For the inconvenience of Brafferton is different than to say, this thing is gonna at some point, they're gonna condemned or something. I think it's been out, but 3 years left is for end of life. And it's gonna take some time to spec it and whatever else. So from my perspective, I'm most worried about that piece of property right now. And then trying to, for now, I guess, as you said, there'll be other moments in the market too, but that's not gonna be inexpensive to take care of.
Right. And it would be unfortunate if we weren't ready to move to, and depending on where we go with it being a public-private partnership, us doing it on our own, whatever it may be, we're gonna need money no matter what. So, and seeding that money may make sense now, it may not. It's up to the commission. So,
Ask 2 ignorant questions.
well, that's the only ones I accept.
What ones I have? The tennis courts, is that the courts on Cedar or are there other courts we're talking?
No, this is the tennis center. The
Second,
ones that are specifically here, 1 through 8, are all the ones that are lit on the front. 1 through 8 are facing Cedar Boulevard, they're not buried. And then courts 1 and 2 are the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
So they would be removed from clay and put into a hard surface, and then lined and striped and fenced for a pickleball.
second stupid question. Going back to slide number 3, I guess it was, where you're looking at the unassigned fund and
Yep.
I want to call it the total fund balance.
Yes.
So I'm gonna, this is where my understanding of how Department of Defense works and not knowing how cities work.
Yep.
So in my world, management reserve was 10%. If you're over 10%, some admiral is gonna take the money away from you. Is there folks above us administratively who could say, we can take some of that money out of Mount Lebo at the county, state, or federal level? Is this touchable or untouchable?
I think.
Okay, like I said, stupid question.
No, thank you for asking. There are no stupid questions,
Yeah.
so.
I've made a career of asking stupid questions. I'm good at it.
No, that is municipal. Now, within the financial statement side, so that's a good question. There are certain monies that are then become untouchable, period. So monies in our pension funds, for instance, if we hit the fan, so to speak, we can't go to our pension funds and go, hey, you know what, there's 140 million there, let's go take some money from there. So we can't do that.
Like the state of
Um,
Illinois? That's what they've done.
Yeah, so we don't do that. And also, things that aren't presented, this is just the general fund, but we have other dollars elsewhere that are also here, right? So we have a sewer fund, right? All the bills you pay for your sewer fee, that's all accounted for in a separate fund. That's not presented here. That's not really the purpose of this presentation, but those are all monies that are separated and accounted for separately as well. So we don't dip into those funds to balance the general fund budget, so to speak. They're dedicated to those activities, what that fee is dedicated for.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
So I'm assuming with back to the bond issue, if the commission, not knocking you guys, haven't decided what that other 5 million will. The stuff in the red, does that then go into the general expenditure fund and expand that?
Well, no, we wouldn't find, I mean, they would,
The bond would be.
the bond would
lower.
be less, right? That would be the size.
So they're
of
gonna
that
have to
bond.
decide that before the bond.
We
Okay.
have 2 more meetings to decide
Okay,
the size
gotcha.
of it.
Other one of those things where you're gonna get it and say, well, okay, maybe we'll throw 5 million at the garage instead of 3.4.
Well, I think that's the point Andrew made earlier where, like that 2013 bond, where when it got to the point saying the bond was what, let's say it was $5 million, I don't remember what the number was. They go, okay, we need the money from somewhere, and so it was prioritized from Rafferton. That was for Wildcat, well, now Seymour Field, where money was redirected to that project. Here's a case in that bond, which went from activities at the golf course to something else. So, the commission says we're gonna borrow it. There's a certain time period that we're, 3 years we're required to spend it. It's just sometimes you look and say, well, we hoped we get the whole thing done under X number, and it didn't work out that way. And we just have to react to it.
So Terry was saying that, the bond really has to be used for, if it's for, we typically, and say, number one, it's gotta meet the useful life requirement, right? So we can't go buy, a piece of software with it, right? Or, some salt. That's not what this is for. We're also prohibited by ordinance, by our own ordinance, to use debt for roads. So, we call them, the Dan Miller ordinances. And we're,
What was Raja who would want to borrow
Raja.
money to roads and like.
but we call them the Dan Miller ordinances for lack of a better term. So there are restrictions that are there. Also, Terry was mentioning, that in general, if it's used for facilities, we're gonna use it on facilities. That's what we do, right? So if it's taken out for fields, we're gonna go for fields or something else within that issue. It's not going to be for something completely separate, so on and so forth.
We try to aim for that.
Yeah,
We
we aim
don't
for that.
always succeed. I know
Yep.
that,
So,
Commissioner Frosch was, unhappy because there's some money that hopefully was gonna be for Rob Hollow that wound up being, and it was just, again, trying to fill holes in budgets.
Any other questions?
You're thinking 9 is gonna be the target for the bond?
9 million?
Yeah.
9.6.
High-end.
High end.
Yeah, I think 7.5 is probably a good number. I think 7.5 is a good number.
Good luck, Bradford.
We want to stay under 10 million.
You're retired, just write him a check.
It wouldn't be to Bradford. And I remember my kids playing in Bradford and parking is horrid.
Now, so you might have to wait for that.
Now, there's other field projects that are out there, so it wouldn't surprise me if we went up to 9.5, somewhere in there. Because there are other field projects that are coming. We have Wildcat Middle that's coming. That they've talked about lighting the Wildcat side of it. Because Middle's lit like the other side of it, so they've talked about that. We're going to returf it here in the next 2 years. We have funds from all the community organizations that use the lights. That fee goes to pay for the turf for the next turf. It won't cover it all, but there's a large chunk, as you saw in that fund balance side, that 502,000. There's over 400,000 of that is from the lighting fee over the last 10 years that we
What's
accumulated.
the advertising that,
That's small, that's
It's what
nothing.
we got goes into that bucket as well.
It's about 40,000 a year, lighting, and there's about 1,500 if they advertise, so. Yeah, so it's good. So we've got some other things coming, so. But we also,
And the next 2 years, we're doing bond issues also.
yeah, it's coming. Yeah, we have, with all the plans that we have, between the parks, the comprehensive plan, Parks Rec master plan, the main park master plan, the South Garage studies and feasibility, and active transportation plan, we've got some things that the community wants. So we've got to start planning for it now and start seeding it. So I got
Well,
Yeah,
it's my
nice
turn now.
presentation.
all that.
Thank you.
There's another group that wants to see this tomorrow, if you don't mind.
That's fine. This is my jam.
Sound practice.
Okay,
Sound
AM.
practice.
You have to understand that we really cut him short last night, so at the end of things, why don't you bring that for the group tonight, because I want to make sure you knew. And so you got the full amount to present, whereas last night we made you be brief, so thank you. Part of our being late and so forth meant that there was a presentation that got bumped to the next discussion session where Greg was going to present to us a draft of the fleet management program to say what would be the rules. I know we've talked about of, green vehicles or like battery powered vehicles, what are the metrics to use. And so he started to put some things together and he wanted to talk to commission. It was just a preliminarily to say, here's what I'm thinking, what do you all think? And so he's gonna present that last night. We ran out of time, so that hopefully we'll have the next discussion session agenda to talk about that. And again, he's looking for some feedback. I know my comment was, he's got things in there about measuring miles per gallon and so forth. I said to Ian to communicate to Greg, said, make sure there's sort of use stuff in there. And again, it was as we're walking from one room to the other. So it was a very short conversation. But the idea being is that, okay, does a truck have to push X number of cubic, whatever, of snow or something? I mean, somehow that use stuff is in there. And so it was a very just quick nugget. So it's something for Greg to think about as he brings it back to say, not just what was the miles per gallon stuff, but also let's not forget what we're buying this stuff for, what its core use is. So anyway, but that's something that I know the group had asked about in a previous meeting. Well, what's commission thinking about that? We're sort of stay tuned where that's a specific presentation, at least give some more. I know it's gonna take a few more meetings after that to really fill in all the information, but just that discussion is happening.
Is the point to justify going this direction, or are they actually looking for a comparison between, what is and what could be?
Well, what Greg is working on is essentially to create a framework to say, okay, when we're looking to get vehicles, kind of what's the format, what's the procedure we follow? Okay, we're looking and saying, okay, this is what we're spending on gas, or this is what we're spending on maintenance, or this is what we expect the vehicle to do and so forth, to try and make a more formulaic.
Okay.
Because of kind of the data you put
structure.
together.
Obviously,
Yes,
we need the spreadsheet to say, take that and then fill it in, but there's a certain amount, someone says, I need a new truck, now what? And to try and make it, more formulaic than, abstract, if that makes sense. Beyond that, I mean, Andrew covered the financial stuff. That's kind of 1-2 punch as far as what's going on right now. Any questions? We have two candidates running for next year. So, obviously, my term ends at the end of this year, but we have candidates running for the second and fourth wards. So my point is to say, thoughts to kind of bend their ears to say, hey, once Silverman's off here and Grella's off here, here's things we want you to think about. So now's the time as they're out knocking on doors to have those conversations.
So you want to be on the commission liaison to the financial management. Yeah, you do.
See the smile on his face?
Well, no, I'm already here, but I think he's talking about.
In the future, yes.
Yeah, when I was running and Dave Brumfield was on commission, and at that point we had the pension board. Dave said, when you announced that was the board you were going on, it didn't matter if you were elected, the minute you put in your petition, we said, we've identified that's where you're gonna wind up, which I enjoyed doing. So we'll see how things go. Anyway, so that's an update from commission, but any other questions?
All right, any other, we'll move to number 6, any other subcommittee updates, any new information, anything else to discuss? I've pretty much gotten it in the road on some of that where we are today.
Yeah, on the Commissioner Silverman, so I met with Greg a couple weeks ago, and he shared his spreadsheet, and we went through a bunch of stuff of what he's looking for, and trying to get some more information to get ready for your next discussion. But yeah, he's got a lot of information built into that spreadsheet to try to give you guys something useful, so.
Yeah, because what we got was not a spreadsheet, it was more verbiage, so to see those start to mesh together.
Thank you for meeting with him. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's done a lot of homework on it, so
Yeah,
hopefully
good.
Any new items?
Yeah, so I've got 2. So one is, as everybody saw, we did have one of our board members, Adam Bowman. So that should be reappointed to the commission level here in the next month or 2. So we'll have a new board member on our board. Just want to make sure everyone, I think he emailed the entire board, so if you didn't get the email, but just for everyone's at home. And then finally I did not know this, they probably said this when we reorganized our boards. But the expectation of every board is to have a summary of activities in a year. So unfortunately, I'm gonna look to the man in the bow tie to lead this. We have a shell, some of the other boards that are more, we're on top of this a little bit more than we were. And that's my fault. I mean, I'm not gonna blame anybody. I should have paid
Well, if
attention.
you're not gonna blame someone in the Jolly Rancher socks.
Yeah, right. You know, I should have paid more attention. I should have paid more attention to that. And so we're gonna work on that in the next month. I'm gonna send you a shell of it. We can work together. I'm gonna share it with the entire group. So if anybody wants to comment on it, and we'll review it next meeting as one of our items, and then pass it from there and give it delivered to the manager in May. So that just needs to come our way. So I apologize, that was my fault. Anything else new? Next meeting is May 14th. This is the big meeting where our pension advisor comes in. So feel free to make sure you are here to hear all about our pension, year-end pension items. If you have
Your Red
questions
Bull
about-
before you come in.
Right, dressed like a banker.
Yeah, that's like a bank, right? Exactly right. So he'll be presenting on the first quarter financials, our 2024, as well as up on the SharePoint site, if you're curious about that.
First
Um,
quarter's good.
Let's be positive. Let's be positive. Let's be positive.
Well, the first quarter's fine.
Not be negative. We're gonna
It's
be
the last
positive.
10 days that really.
Okay,
took
you're
everything.
right,
Today was a
you're
good
right.
day.
Hey,
Yeah, so just know that that's coming next meeting. He'll lead off the meeting, so it'll be a little bit different, so we can get him out of here, cause he lives far, far away. But
And the May magazine, the CAFR's gonna be in the May magazine, right?
the Pafford, yeah.
CAFR,
Yeah.
yeah, right, but the point is.
At six,
For you.
at 6.
You
Yes.
missed that.
Yeah, you missed the meeting. You need to go to sensitivity training.
Yes.
Yes.
I saw Sandy as going out as I came in, like, I guess I'm officially late.
No, so, no, we talked about that, so yes, thank you again, yeah, so that'll be there, so that's what's, to look forward to at the May meeting, so. We will not have our actuarial report, I was hoping we would have it in early May, but they've assured me that I will get it in May sometime, so if I get it beforehand, so all that stuff we'll be reviewing in June and July. For actuarial reports. That'll help.
The reason why is because it's a new vendor.
No, we usually get it in early May, late April, but I think delaying them, and at least I'm getting it in May. There's probably some that they're delaying because they know they don't pay attention to it as much as we do. So we'll go over how that affects budgets and those types of things. So you're starting to see the cycle of finance now. This is the 2025, 1/1/25 actuarial report that we'll deliver. So I'll forward you the memo I write to the commission and all those things. But that's coming as well.
Definitely drink a Red Bull for the next.
Yes, that's exhilarating information.
One thing you're just, not tonight, didn't catch me and whatever, Terry, that obviously all of you who are reappointed for this, and we thank you. It's good for commission to know going forward to say what you liked, what you disliked about the process. Because setting up these new 5 boards, it's different how it comes together. And so it would be good for commission to get feedback. of, what you like, what you didn't like, how to do better, whatever, kind of thing. I just, we need to learn. And so if there's something, please, share with us.
Are you talking about just generally on board constitution or?
No, I
the
meant
whole-
just,
or just
you're
everything?
you're sitting in the room going, I can't stand Steve, he talks too much, whatever, it just, and just the idea of just trying to get a sense of is, this was a pension board, now become a financial, advice board. I would hope we get the same sort of feedback from the other boards. I know there's a board that we unfortunately had to refer to as Franken board because it was enough different put together and it didn't quite, it's not like Parks and Rec, they used a show named that, the other board, it just didn't necessarily quite mesh as well, but it was kind of how it worked out. So that's where, again, trying to learn, because one of the things we said is, we're doing this. If there's something we do better, how can we change it? How can we improve it? So you are kind of the guinea pigs of this, and to give us some sort of feedback. And if the answer is it's fine, great, but hey, we got at least asked for the feedback, so I'm asking it again. However you want to present that, short of throwing rotten tomatoes. Okay.
All right, any other items? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I moved.
All right, and a second? All right, all in favor of adjournment? Aye. Anybody who wants to stay?